1,000 trucks that went in, only 10 reached their warehouses. The rest of them were looted. And at Kerem Shalom, hundreds of journalists have now seen food piles left untouched because UN agencies refused to distribute them. Israel has surged aid by airdrops, by sea routes, by safe corridors, and by GHF sites manned by American companies. No other nation at war has gone to such lengths. And this has been confirmed by John Spencer, the chair of the Urban Warfare Institute at West Point. So who is really starving? Unfortunately, the hostages held by Hamas. The IPC ignores Hamas theft and Israel's efforts recycling a modern-day blood libel. Israel will keep enabling aid for civilians while destroying Hamas's terror machine. Now, journalists would do well to encourage the world to put more pressure on Hamas, on Qatar, on Turkey, for the release of all of our hostages, and of course, to get the truth out there. Okay, that's the end of my points to share with you today. I'll now take your questions. Please put your questions in the chat directly to me, not in the general chat, directly to me, and we will take your questions. Let's see if there's any questions here. I haven't seen any questions yet. Are there any questions? Just waiting to see any questions. Okay, I can't see any questions. If that's the case, thank you for joining us. We'll have another briefing again shortly. Let's see if there's any questions. No? Okay, we're just trying to get to the questions. Just give us a moment. We've got a technical hitch while we get to the questions. Okay.
There are quite a few questions. Sorry, David. There are a bunch of questions, but I believe they were shared with everyone.
Okay, I'm just waiting for my
Some way
technical
you can access that. That would be helpful. Thank you.
Just waiting for my technical assistant to put the questions on the screen so I can take your questions. If give us a moment. He's sorting it out right now.
David, while we're waiting, can you just say yes or no whether the Security Cabinet meeting has begun? This is Laura Jakes from the New York Times. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Laura. It is not our practice to say when cabinet meetings take place. We will certainly update you on the results of any cabinet meetings after they take place, but it is not our practice to share when they start, but we normally share the outcomes of those meetings after the cabinet meetings. Maybe if there are any other questions I could take audibly, then I'd be happy to take them.
Hi, David. Matthew Doran from ABC News Australia here.
Hi, Matthew.
Australia's Prime Minister announced in the last short while that the government is expelling Iran's ambassador in response to intelligence that Iran was behind at least 2 anti-Semitic attacks in Australia in recent months. Could I get the Israeli government's response to this news that Iran has been accused of fueling anti-Semitic attacks in Australia, and to the decision by the government to expel Iranian diplomats in protest?
Thank you for that question, Matthew. Well, let me put it this way. The Prime Minister Netanyahu has made a very forthright intervention when it comes to Australia, a country which we have a long history of friendly relations. He made those comments because he did not believe that the actions of the Australian government had gone anywhere near far enough to address the issues of anti-Semitism. He made very forthright comments about the Prime Minister himself. He said that he may have a long history of public service, but on this issue he has been found to be extremely lacking. Prime Minister Netanyahu wrote to your Prime Minister as well. And we certainly see it from Israel that Australia taking the threats against Israel and the Jewish people, Jewish Australians living in Australia, for the Australian government to take those threats seriously is a positive outcome. It is, of course, a matter for the Australian government, the actions they take, but be in no doubt the government of Iran, I don't say the people of Iran, the government of Iran are a wholly negative influence on world affairs. They openly say they wish to wipe this country off the face of the earth. And they have around the world, in London and now it seems in Australia as well, are actively seeking to attack Jewish communities and other Israeli interests or targets in Israel. So we would say that it's a matter for the Australian government, of course, what they do. But from Israel's point of view, we have raised this issue in a most forthright way, not because we wanted to, but because we believe this issue was not being given the seriousness that it deserves, giving in to the mobs in Australia or anywhere else around the world that make the most noise, but are not the majority, but simply make it the most noise, is a method of achievement. Jewish Australians felt threatened. The relationship between this country and Australia was damaged. And so it's welcome that after the Prime Minister Netanyahu's timely intervention, that these actions have been taken by Australia's government. Next question, please. Audio is
David, thank you. I'm Victor Regina from Record TV from Brazil. The Brazilian government has declined to accept the nomination of Israel news ambassador in Brasilia. This stance, of course, comes in addition to other recent decisions, such as withdrawing from the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance and joining the case at the International Court of Justice. How does the Israeli government sees the yesterday's decision in the broader context of their other positions?
Thank you for that question from Brazil. Can I point you to Israel's Foreign Ministry, where to get further comment on that issue, and the Prime Minister's office will be making further comment on this issue later today. So I won't preempt those comments, but the Prime Minister's office will be making further comments, and the Prime Minister is fully aware of the issue with Brazil, and further comments will be made later today. If I could ask my colleague Roy to put those questions back up again, if you can make them bigger, then I'll be able to read them. But in the meantime, another audio question.
Hi, David. It's Hannah Julian. A quick question about President Trump, who yesterday said that he was hearing for the first time about the attack on Nasser Hospital in Gaza, and followed up by saying that he expected the conflict in Gaza to end within the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Absolutely. Is there a response to that?
Thank you for that question, Hannah. First things first, of course, the Prime Minister believes that President Trump is Israel's best friend, the most friendly, the most understanding, the most knowledgeable partner for this country that Israel has ever had in the White House, and we are extremely grateful. There is no daylight between our two governments, and we are working extremely closely on our war objectives. There have been so many achievements in this war, which we've worked together with the Americans on. You know, they told us that no hostages would ever come out home alive, and today 205 are out. back with their families, 148 alive, but also, unfortunately, too many dead hostages, but living proof that Israel has done the impossible together in partnership with our American allies. The Prime Minister said very, very clearly that we want this war to end as quickly as possible. That is our objective, and we haven't got any further comment to make regarding President Trump's comments, just to say that I can tell you from first hand that the Prime Minister and the President are in extremely close contact very, very, very often. Okay, next question.
Hi, it's Rebecca Hartman here from BBC News. Did civilian open source intelligence material play a role in the decision to strike the Nasser hospital in Gaza? And is the IDF investigating that as part of the investigation? Thank you.
Thank you for that question from the BBC. The BBC, I will remind you, have never ever called Hamas a terrorist organization. To your shame. You have also, the BBC, been an institution which has paid money, license fee money, to your shame, to the terrorist organization. That has been come out as a fact. The BBC have also created fake documentaries, sympathetic to Hamas. So that is where the question is coming from, just so everyone is fully aware. The Prime Minister made a very clear comment about the incident yesterday at Nasser Hospital. That comment is available online. It's available on the Prime Minister's Twitter feed. And also that comment makes clear that the military authorities, the IDF, are investigating that incident. And the results of that investigation will come out extremely soon without much further delay. But I would say, when it comes to the issue of journalists inside Gaza, and the Prime Minister's made his comments already about the situation about journalists in Gaza, that of course journalism is a noble profession, but many journalists who have reported from Gaza, so-called journalists, are simply terrorists with a press vest on. And the latest example of that was the Al Jazeera journalist who was targeted and eliminated. He was on the Hamas payroll. He was in the Hamas telephone book. He was a Hamas company commander. He went through Hamas training. His Facebook and his social media were littered with pictures of him hugging Hamas leaders, including Sinwar himself. So we'll take no lessons from the BBC, particularly that has shamed itself in this war when it comes to journalism. Of course, we take journalists, the rights of journalists to do their work extremely seriously. This is the most open country when it comes to a free press in hundreds of miles in any direction. Okay, I can see some further questions here from Lara from the New York Times. You're asking me if the Security Cabinet meeting has started already. I've answered that one. Another question here from Spanish media. When does Israel plan to allow international press into Gaza? Request is made by major journalistic organizations. Thank you for that question, Maria, about media going into Gaza. This has gone on far too long. Hundreds of journalists have gone into Gaza. Hundreds of journalists have seen the aid waiting on the Gazan side of the Israel-Gaza border. And if journalists wish to enter Gaza, they should make their request through the IDF. Next question, I think I've taken that question from Matthew Doran. The next question is from RT, from Asia Apakova. On Wednesday, IDF troops completed a targeted raid on several commando outposts belonging to the old Syrian regime on the slopes of Mount Hermon summit in Syria. Just flick back. When the Prime Minister talks about Greater Israel, does this mean that the borders of neighbouring countries, including Syria, are disputable? Thank you for that question from RT. Let me answer it this way. When it comes to Syria, let me address this particularly. Israel's de facto response is that we want peaceful relations with the new regime in Syria. That is our objective. and we are certainly seeking to push that forward. But I will say very, very clearly that Israel, after the October the 7th massacre, will do everything in its power to defend itself. That is our duty, it is our responsibility to defend our people. We will always, first and foremost, put out the hand of peace where there is an opportunity to create a better future between Israel and Syria. We will certainly do that. I've already spoken in this briefing about Lebanon and the positive things which are happening inside Lebanon, which we very much welcome, which means that Hamas are being disarmed. We want there to be a peaceful border between Israel and Lebanon. But when it comes to Syria, yes, our de facto response is, of course, to get peaceful relations with our neighbors in Syria, but we will make very, very clear that Syria can no longer become an Iranian outpost. And that is the reason why we are taking forward the discussions that we are taking forward. Okay, next question, please. Okay, we've taken that question. Next question is about the Brazilian government, and we've taken that question as well. Okay, let's take one from Leo Soroka from the Washington Post. 88% of what Witkoff asked for, yet Israel still hasn't gotten back to the mediators. And the last part of your question, can you relate to that? Why has Israel not responded to the mediators? Thank you very much for that question, Lior. Look, Israel has made its position clear, and our Prime Minister has been crystal clear. No more piecemeal elements to a potential ceasefire, humanitarian pause. Our objective is all of the hostages, a full deal. There is simply no explanation that would be justifiable to a civilized person of why Hamas should hold even one of our hostages, let alone 50. So no longer a piecemeal agreement. It is no coincidence that now that Israel has reiterated its objective to take over the remaining parts of Gaza City with the purpose of defeating the Hamas terrorist organization and getting our people back, that now Hamas, having for so long rejected an agreement, now they wish to have some sort of piecemeal agreement. No more piecemeal agreements. Our objective is a full agreement. Okay, that seems to be the last question, unless there are any other audio questions on the line.
I'll jump in again. It's Laura Jakes from the New York Times. You alluded to the IDF investigation being made public shortly, and I understand that might happen today. With that in mind, can you tell us here and now what it will conclude? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. No, I'll let the IDF come out with the results in their right time. As I said, IDF always produces these reports very, very quickly. Our military is an open, transparent organization. We are a people's army. I mean, to be blunt, you couldn't keep a secret in this country even if you wanted to. So that is why I will leave it to the IDF to release the results of that investigation. And you also have the Prime Minister's comments from yesterday on his Twitter feed. Okay. Any other questions?
Howard Gollert, Reuters. Just one question. In reference to the Hamas proposal, having accepted the proposal Witkoff put forward, does what you say mean Israel's response is no?
No, I haven't said that at all. That isn't what I've said. If you just tell me your name and which output, which...
Sure. It's Howard Gollert at Reuters.
From Reuters, okay.
Yes.
Look,
yes, sir.
Since the October 7th terrorist attack, 205 people have been returned or have been recovered from Gaza, 148 alive, and 57 have come back, unfortunately, dead. Israel, this is the point I want to share with you. Israel wants a full and complete deal that brings all of them home. We very much appreciate the efforts of mediating countries, And we are certainly looking into any move that leads to a release of the hostages and the meeting of the goals of this war. I can tell you that there is an Egyptian team who's willing to engage in these negotiations, and that that issue is currently being assessed. But be in no doubt, we want a complete deal. There is no nation, there is no justification for any of our hostages being held for one day more. And if I may say, with respect to international media and Reuters in particular, it would do well for all international media to put pressure on the terrorist organization to let our hostages go, because then, together with them laying down their arms, this war would be over in an instant. Any other questions? Last one? No? Okay, thank you for joining us today. We'll have another briefing again shortly. In the meantime, apologies for the technical hitches in our new studio, but hopefully we'll iron those out next time. And we'll please do stay safe, of course, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. It's all right, David.